Your view, what is data driven decision making today?
I would say it is the biggest tackling issue in this AI world because with several years of experience, so I have seen optimization.
And Satish, how did the idea for MDO engine come about?
See, as I said, like no, almost some 6+ years working in that system. So with the optimization systems and AI automated tools, so I was also into the panic at times what to do because sometimes I have to take my own decision and I am responsible for my own decision.
Companies are spending millions on optimization, but how much of that is based on unstable data?
In current scenario, in high variance environments based on the optimization systems, they try to act directly.
And do you agree a wrong decision leads to a loss?
It's just because we don't have decision validity. So you have taken a decision, we don't know whether it is valid, there is no validation for that decision. So we don't have that clarity. So that's why we have repeated losses.
So essentially, not everything in the data we see is actionable.
I would don't like 100% say it is not actionable. So certain things we need to act, for certain things we need to wait and see.
And what would you like to say about the statement which I'm going to say? Sometimes the problem isn't the data, it's just how we interpret it.
Yeah, we can say that one because sometimes we interpret the data with our own experience or with our own knowledge. We try to interpret that way
Meant to ask, are we overreacting to the short term changes?
because I was also into the panic at times because I was working in that area in optimization systems. So I was into panic when I see the performance improves.
And even experienced teams makes mistakes. So, what do you think? Why does that happen?
So here it is not problem with the capability issue. So here it's a structural issue. So even the experienced teams, if there is no proper framework on decision making or decision systems, then they also land onto the
Hello, Mr. Satish Saka. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. So let's start it simple. So, Mr. Satish, in your view, what is data-driven decision making today?
So I would say it is the biggest tackling issue in this AI world because with several years of experience, so I have seen optimization decisions, I have seen automated tools, how the systems are working. So there is a lot of data available, but I would say the lack of decision clarity. So we have the sufficient data, we have the optimization tools, we have the systems. So everything is visible now, everything we can calculate. But once we come to the decision, so we are whether the decision is correct or not, it is the action is ready to take or not. So this eventually led me to build MDU engine. So it is a decision support system.
Okay, can you explain us more about the MDO engine?
So we have a lot of, it is not an optimization tool. So it is not like it does not execute any changes. So it evaluates a readiness. So let us say you have certain performance campaigns are running, you see metrics, you so if there is an improvement in metrics, you try to take an action. So if there is a drop, so you get panic, so what to do next. So then we take all the teams or everyone try to intervene in between and try to scale everything. So there comes the problem. So we try to scale without having the sufficient data there. So with the short term data we try to evaluate. So then we have a problem, I would say there. So
Okay.
there comes my product which evaluates whether the decision is ready or not, whether it is the right time to act or it is better to wait. I would say we have a lot of quotes saying no, it's better to wait than to act immediately.
Yeah. Okay, so it's how your MDO engine comes into the place.
Yes.
And Satish, you often talk about signal versus noise.
Yes.
But how do practically teams can differentiate between a meaningful change and a random fluctuation?
See, signal, I would say signal is a like meaningful change. It's a stable. So noise, it's a random fluctuation. So that means, so you see something interesting, it is working so well. So you try to scale it immediately. So it is actually not the signal, it is a noise. So when it comes to the signal, how they can differentiate is if they have the sufficient data there, so they can see, evaluate, okay, if there is, so we don't have any system that will like help us to justify your decision. So then we try to immediately with our knowledge, so whatever the automated system suggests us, we try to take an action. So that I would call as a noise, because sometimes for a noise we try to react immediately. So for a signal we wait. Even if you take the traffic signal also, we wait at the signal, we have certain directions, we have some consistency. So once the signal is clear, we pass through it very smoothly. So when it comes to the noise, we try to react immediately, it's an instant reaction. So random fluctuation, so we try to scale, or we say we try to reduce. So we have some confusion there.
Okay. So essentially, not everything in the data we see is actionable.
It is no, I would don't like 100% say it is not actionable. So certain things we need to act, certain things, for certain things we need to wait and see.
And Mr. Satish, we often listen to this when performance improves, no, it scales up, and when it comes down, the teams get panic. How can you see this scenario?
So having like no almost 6 to 7 years work experience in that scenario, even
Yeah, I meant to ask, are we overreacting to the short-term changes?
because I was also into the panic at times, because I was working in that area like in optimization systems. So I was into panic when I see the performance improves. So I try to scale it immediately, either to increase the spend or to get more leads. So I try to do some optimization decisions there directly with my instant. So instinct thinking like, okay, I can make a decision, it's getting improved. I don't see the actual data, and I don't like know whether this decision is good enough to proceed. So I can't justify that one, I only take an action by saying that okay, this is working, so let me put it more there, let me optimize that one. So when something drops, let us say CPI is higher or it's a dropping, then I get panic, what to do now. So it is dropping, it is not working, the campaigns are not working, so what optimization I can do, the system is suggesting something, so what I can react to that one, I get panic, and in that panic I try to take certain instant decisions, which eventually leads to repeated losses.
And even experienced teams makes mistakes. So, what do you think? Why does that happen?
So here it is not problem with the capability issue. So here it's a structural issue. So even the experienced teams, if there is no proper framework on decision making or decision systems, then they also land into the mistakes. Like so they have smart systems, so they have the automated systems, they have huge experience and all. But if there is no proper framework that evaluates the decision that we have to take, see whether I should I take this decision or should I wait for the decision, if there is no system there, so then that also be, I would say it is a problem there, it's an issue for them also.
And Satish, how did the idea for MDO engine come about?
See, as I said, like no, almost some 6 plus years working in that system. So with the optimization systems and AI automated tools, so I was also into the panic at times what to do, because sometimes I have to take my own decision, and I am responsible for my own decision. So there are days that I was panicking. There are days I was so confident enough. But what I realized eventually is like having high confidence and low confidence data finally leads me to the like repeated loss. This made me to develop MDU engine. So as I said, it is a decision support system. So it lands exactly between observation and action. So as I said, it doesn't like execute changes, or it doesn't execute optimization. So it only evaluates readiness. So you give certain data to the engine, so it evaluates the data, whether it will say whether the data is sufficient, it will scale. So if you want me to explain further about this product, so it is basically depends or built on like four categories, like so data consistency, so then second one is stability, and then we have directional consistency and downside risk. So after evaluating all these things, so it finally come on to a decision. So based on it states like scale, hold, reduce or block. So it evaluates the decision ready, so whether we need to take an action or not.
అంటే మీరు చెప్పిన దాన్ని బట్టి ఇట్స్ నాట్ జస్ట్ అ టూల్, ఇట్స్ మోర్ లైక్ ఎ డెసిషన్ సిస్టమ్ అంటారా?
ఎస్, ఇది ఏంటి అంటే ఒక ఆప్టిమైజేషన్ టూల్ అయితే కాదు, లైక్ బట్ ఇట్ విల్ సే మనం తీసుకున్న డేటా, మన దగ్గర మనం ఇచ్చిన డేటా ఇది కరెక్ట్గా ఆ డెసిషన్ కరెక్టా కాదా, మనం వెయిట్ చేయాలా లేకపోతే డూ వీ నీడ్ టు టేక్ ఏ ఇమీడియట్ యాక్షన్.
And Mr. Satish, for founders and operators who are watching, now, what are the quick 2 to 3 changes that they can implement immediately?
For the founders and directors who are all watching this one, so I would only say that, so in the future we will continue to see more data and more automated tools. So all these systems, like no, they misinterpret the data. So because we have a lot of automated tools, so they directly take an action. So they don't scale whether the action is like defined or not, is it good to take the action. So they continuously as per the system, as per their signals, they optimize directly. So for them I would like say, if you have the data, analyze it. If you are going to take a decision on certain campaigns or certain system, so let us analyze it properly, like no, whether this change or should we wait on this change. So let us say whether this is decision ready. So if it is decision ready, go for it. If it is not for decision ready, then we need to wait and see.
And how do you see decision making evolving in the future?
See, with this, the first generation and the AI world, so everyone is like no, they don't have much time to spend. So they use lot of AI tools. They want a system that evaluates directly and that gives the final decision, that optimizes us, and finally gives the result. Here, what I would say is, it is not the human misinterpretation, but it is the system misinterpretation at scale. So the scaling is not done properly. So I would say humans, we need to interpret that one, the data, then we need to take an action.
So, Mr. Satish, if you would like to give a piece of advice, what would it be?
If you want to optimize, don't optimize if something is changed. Optimize if the change is reliable enough to act on.
So, based on our today's conversation, I can highlight something which is very important, that data is everywhere, but clarity is rare.
Yes, that's what even my system stands there. It's trying to fill that gap.
Okay. Here's the biggest paradox in digital systems. We have more data than ever, but decisions are still inconsistent. So, Satish, let me ask you directly, is the problem with the lack of data or too much data without clarity?
The problem is not data or having too much data. So as we move on, we will have lot of data. We collect lot of data. But the major problem is it's interpreting on unstable data. So we are not like the systems are interpreting on unstable or uncertainty. I work on optimization tools and all, and on the systems and all. So in the optimization systems, I try to take decisions and all. So there are at times I was like, no, whether what can I bring a system in which it describes whether my action is reliable or not, or whether should I take action. Before the action is taken, I need a system that says, okay, this action is okay, we can scale it, we can reduce it, or we can hold it. So with that thought, I started researching with all the data I have. So with all the systems I have, then I started researching what is the system that I can bring into this technology world. What is the system that can say your action is reliable, it is reliable now to act on. So with that thoughts and all, I started researching on my own. Like I have seen the systems optimization tools and all. So with all the data that I have, with all the experiences I have, then I started building this system only to fill that gap, so between the observation and the action.
Okay. In simple terms, how do you actually identify what truly matters in the data?
Truly matters in the data is something like, so if data is stable or unstable. See, let us say if we stand on the outside, we see a lot of wind flowing. So if you immediately act onto that movement, after certain time you get the wind from the other side. So before you take that action, which direction you should see, so you should have the directional consistency. You should know the stability, which side I have to move on. So in this way, I would say the data. So instead of data driven systems in the future, so it would become decision driven systems.
And Satish, many teams scale based on short term performance.
Yes.
Do you think really are the signals reliable?
See, at times we need to act on short term data that we have, but like we need to analyze whether this short term data is scalable enough. So is it stable or unstable? So that's where the MD engine enters to say that if you are working on unstable data, it will say you to hold on. So if you are, so it will say you are in uncertainty whether to change something or not. So the system will say wait for it or scale it now or put everything into other system. So it will try to give you a proper analysis. So having a short term.
Can you explain like where does MDU engine actually fits into this?
So you have a huge data or short term data.
Mhm.
Okay, so let us say you have 5 days of data, so you wanted to scale that one, so you are into panic, something is not working, so now you wanted to scale that one, or if you wanted to take an action having the data, you feel low confidence, so you wanted to improve that campaign and you try to put some money there, increase the spend or increase the audience, you try to act on it directly. But in this MDU engine will say, it will directly say, the system will directly tell you if data is less, it will not take the system will not take it. It will ask you, so there is no sufficient data, give me the sufficient data to analyze it, to make you take a proper action. So it will stop you in the beginning itself if there is no proper data. So it will almost you ask you for 7 to 14 days of at least data to analyze it. So based on that only it is going to give you certain directions.
So, Mr. Satish, is it a fate to say MDU helps answer this question? Are we ready to scale or just we are experiencing a temporary performance?
Yeah, I would say it will support you more into that. Either you can scale it, or you can reduce it, or you can hold, or you can block based on certain signals, stability, and data consistency. So it will say you the directions. Either you have to scale it now, or you have to take certain action.
So, the problem is not data, but the lack of decision structure, you would say?
I would say it's interpreting, systems are interpreting an unstable data.
Mhm.
If see, if data is stable, so you can scale it. If it is unstable, if you are not able to have sufficient data, if you are not able to, system is not able to understand it, we need to give certain time for the system to understand it. See, there is something like, no, so instead of making a direct optimization or doing taking direct action, sometimes leaving it for the system might correct itself, and you get the major results from there. It is increased.
So, Satish, what are the three mistakes you consider that teams should avoid?
So there are three common mistakes I would find. Like the first one, so reacting to short-term performance changes. The second one is scaling before the stability is established. And the third one is assuming data visibility equals decision clarity. So these are simple things that they ignore. These are the simple things teams avoid because action feels productive than waiting.
So, according to you, these are the mistakes that the
Yes, I would
teams
say
should
if
avoid.
the
Okay.
team can like no avoid these mistakes, so they, that's what no, finally we say action feels more productive than
Mm.
waiting. So
Okay.
we tend to take an action.
Okay. And in future, will success depends more on data or a better decisions?
In the future, the advantage will belong to those who interpret data correctly, not just collect it.
And what's your final one line of advice that you would like to give?
So we get a lot of data in the future. We need to say like if you're taking certain decision, analyze it or evaluate whether it is decision ready.
So let me ask you something. Are we really using data to make decisions or we are just reacting to whatever the data is showing us?
Once upon a time, I was just reacting to the data, whatever it is showing. So now I've moved a step ahead in that. So like I don't act whatever the data is showing. I'll try to see whether the action is reliable or not. Is this data sufficient for me to take an action? So usually I would say in current situation or the current scenarios, we try to act on data whatever it shows to us.
And when you open a dashboard, do you feel clarity, or does it create even more confusion?
Having lot of like optimization tools and systems now, so we have a lot of metrics, lot of systems, sometimes it will confuse us, because you see enough it will ask you to scale, after some time it will ask you to optimize it, or after some time it will ask you to change something. So it is not giving us the clarity enough, having lot of optimization tools. So it is not giving us the proper clarity, either we need to take action or we should not act at all.
To be honest, today many decisions are data driven, but not necessarily decision ready. What would you like to say about that?
Yeah, that's what even I wanted to stress on that. So we have data driven systems, but we don't have decision driven systems. In the future, they are going to be. In that place, in that scenario, I was trying to say, trying to help this MDU engine will help us into make decision systems.
So, Satish, we have data, we have tools, we have dashboards, but still, why the decisions are going wrong?
It's just because we don't have decision validity. So you have taken a decision, we don't know whether it is valid, there is no validation for that decision, we don't have anything that says okay it is the decision readiness, so we don't have that clarity. So that's why we have repeated losses. So as we said, we have a lot of data, we have many tools coming up, we have a lot of dashboards, but it is not giving us the clarity.
Companies are spending millions on optimization, but how much of that is based on unstable data?
In current scenario, in high variance environments, so they try to scale the campaigns immediately, they try to see based on the optimization systems, they try to act directly. So in that scenarios, so they try to do it whatever the automation tools suggest us. So they are not able to analyze whether the decision is justified or whether the decision is validated. Once the decision is validated, so you can take an action.
Okay.
They are fast moving, they want faster results, so they want faster optimizations, so they leave it to the systems. They have a lot of automated systems. So automated systems, they are like they are doing misinterpretation at scale with a lot of data.
Have you ever felt this, Satish? The numbers look good, but something still feels uncertain.
Yes, many times, because even I was working into those systems, if I see the numbers are increasing, it gives me some satisfaction. So that means my work is going, it's a progressing, I am getting lot of results. But the real question is how far the results will last. Is it temporary or it's a long term? See, short term results doesn't give us, they won't last for the longer. So then I thought, I started working on something that gives me long term goal. So I don't want any repeated losses.
So we often believe we are following data, but I think we are just using the data to justify the decisions we have already made. What would you like to say?
Yeah, we often, even I was into that, often like no, already I have taken a decision seeing the data. So with my past experience, no, if I scale this one it will increase. So I have already made a decision. So following the data, either you follow it or not, but the decision is already in my mind, so that I am trying to act it. So that I would say we need to pause there.
More data means better decisions. Is that actually true or just a assumption?
I won't agree 100% for that one, because having more data which is unstable, I would say it is not correct. So if the data is stable, then you can take any decision, it will lead you to some profit.
And do you agree a wrong decision leads to a loss?
Definitely, if we take a wrong decision, it's going to impact it. If the decision is big, it's a big impact. If it is a short, but the impact will continue. So if you're taking some wrong decision with unstable data, then definitely there is a loss.
And what would you like to say about the statement which I'm going to say? Sometimes the problem isn't the data, It's just how we interpret it.
Yeah, we can say that one because sometimes we interpret the data with our own experience or with our own knowledge. We try to interpret that way. So there is a misinterpretation is happening there.
So, what's your final advice?
Don't optimize because something changed. Optimize because the change is reliable to act on.
So, viewers, data doesn't give answers, it only responds to the quality of questions we ask. Thank you so much for your time. See you in other podcast.